Where do bills like this come from?
I would say the dark side. The dark side. The dark side.
It's not like we don't have jobs in the economy and plenty of agenda items that will help to bring health to our community. That you don't have some problems to focus on. Instead, these kinds of debates are going on that have nothing to do with bringing life to our community again and economic life.
And you're exactly right. And I sat there listening through this through a committee and on the House floor, and I thought, we have a $5.3 billion deficit. Mm-hmm. We have all these other issues, and I'm sorry, and we're discussing this now on the House floor.
So how appropriate is that?
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
So
I think we get it.
Okay, good. I hope so. So when you're electing an official next time and they say social issues don't matter, they really do. As long as we're going to go down this road, then social issues could matter to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We have Representative Paul Harris. He is a state representative for the 17th Legislative District. And Paul, you have, I guess there's a bill that has to do with workers' compensation insurance.
Yeah.
Want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's Senate Bill 5566, and it's come off the Senate floor. And what it does is the state of Washington has probably one of the fourth richest workers' compensation programs in the United States, and it's about the third most expensive. So
when you say richest compensation, what do you mean?
I mean an employee that is off is going to be compensated more, longer, with better benefits than 46 other states in the United States.
So if you're an unemployed worker,
this is a hurt worker. This is workers. This is if you happen to get hurt on the job.
Okay.
This is workers' compensation, and we'll talk about unemployment in a minute. But right now, I'm talking about workers' compensation.
All right. So you get hurt on the job.
You get hurt on the job.
And now you're off.
Now you're off.
And
now let's stop right there.
Okay.
In the state of Washington, what do you think the average off stay for a worker is?
I have no idea.
282 days.
That's about 2/3 of a year plus, right?
That's right. And what do you think it is in Oregon?
There must be some contrast there.
45 days.
That's a pretty significant contrast.
It's a pretty significant contrast.
And why? Is it because they have healthier workers over there?
I don't think so.
They have less accidents over there?
I don't.
We have more intensive accidents over there.
Apparently our workers really get hurt bad over here.
Okay, so there's a whole different mindset here that says that enables people to stay off work longer and draw benefits.
Absolutely.
So Oregon is 45 days. What about, how do we compare to the rest of the states? Where are we in that?
Oh, we're like I say, we're about number fourth richest. We offer the fourth highest benefit. We have actually, I think we're the first or second in the longest time for workers to be off work.
Okay, and anytime
we are the highest for long-term disability, granting long-term disability to employees.
So we want to be
number one.
We want to be compassionate. We want to make sure that we care about workers. That if somebody's really is hurt on the job, that their needs are met and they're covered. But we've gone way beyond that, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Because there you have people that in the case where, hey, it's free money, I might as well enjoy this, I've been paying into it all this time, I might as well cash in on it. And that's maybe the mindset that they have. What does that do to the state? How significant of a cost is this to the state? Where is that in their budget?
Well, it's interesting. I just sat down with a business group that's trying to entice businesses to come to the state of Washington. Mm-hmm. And they said one of the number one criteria for businesses not to come here is the cost of workers' compensation.
And who pays that workers' compensation?
The employer does.
Okay. I'm an employer.
You're an employer, and so was I. And I still am, but I don't have as many employees as I did before. It's a major cost. Mm-hmm. It's a major cost.
Yeah.
And all this bill does, which is really interesting, is it gives the employee the option to basically take a settlement with the legal representation of an attorney if he wants.
Supplied by the state?
Supplied by the state if they want, or he can hire his own, or it will be supplied to him. It's the most...
When you say a settlement?
A settlement.
What do you mean?
So rather than...
Instead of continuing to collect and then go back to work, they can take a large lump sum.
They can take a lump sum, or there's negotiations to bring him back to work on a part-time basis, possibly under restricted work, where he'll get a lesser compensation, but would be compensated to his regular salary through kind of a dual, if you follow me, dual pay.
And if he gets a award or some settlement, where does that settlement come from? Does that come from the state or does that come from the employer?
It comes from the state.
Okay, so
Okay.
the state isn't going to create money. The state's
No.
going to basically say, all you employers that are paying into that, we've got this big chunk here that we're paying out. So the workers' compensation insurance charged, but to each employer is going to mount up accordingly.
Yes, but it's actually going to be better for the employer. It's going to lower the rates substantially.
What would?
The bill would. If this bill passes, it's going to
Okay.
help the employers,
So that you-
and it's just going to give the employee an option to opt out if he wants. That's all it's going to do. And he has complete say throughout the entire system. If the employee decides he doesn't want to go down that road, he doesn't have to. It's an easy fix. It's the same fix that 46 other states have passed.
Make sure I understand. There's a bill
There's a bill
that attempts to fix this problem of all this money flowing out and becoming this excessive benefit to people that are on workers' compensation leave.
Correct.
And this bill is offering the same kind of solution as 40 some other states.
46 others.
Okay, and
Yeah.
and so I take it that you're supporting this bill.
I absolutely am.
Do you think the bill is going to pass? What's the likelihood? Who would vote against this bill? And why would they vote? I mean,
Well, who would vote against this bill
Yeah.
would be, well, it's passed the Senate, and it's sitting right now in the chambers of the House, the Democratic side. And probably most likely because of union conflict with this bill, okay? The governor will sign it, the Senate has signed it, the House of Representatives on the Republican side will sign it, and most of the Democrats, believe it or not, on the House side will sign it. But they don't want that bill to come out yet, or they don't want it to come out at all.
why not?
Because there's a small minority on the Democratic side of the House that looks at that as a Republican win.
And
And it's politics.
Are party politics really that partisan and that obvious?
You know, David, what I've learned about this is in the 11 weeks I've been up in Olympia, is it's sad to say, but a lot of this is all about politics. A lot of it.
Okay, but it sounds
So
like...
this is politics inside of politics.
Right, to define politics. Politics, to me, is the whole process of passing bills and negotiating. But this is more like partisan, our team versus your team.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really not the citizens or the employers that really are the dominant stakeholders in here. It's the party, our party versus your party, it sounds like, which is the citizens lose in that case.
And I would agree. This is a win-win for the state of Washington. It's a win for the employers. It's a win for the employee, because all it does for the employee is it says, you know, instead of sitting out of work for 290 days, maybe at 45 days we can bring you in under a limited work program. You don't have to, but if you would like to, you can, and you can sign off.
So it's still voluntary. It just gives them a choice.
It just gives them a choice. That's all this does.
Now, what are they saying? Why would they vote for that? Why would they not allow this?
There are people that look
solution?
at that and think it's a step back for the employee. And I'll be but I don't see how. You're not under any coercion. You're not in a dark room with the lights off and saying you're going to sign this. This is completely optional.
Okay. Well,
I don't understand.
You must
to be
have heard
honest
the
with
arguments.
You, Dave, no, there is really no argument. I have not heard a good argument yet of why not. And we haven't had that argument because it hasn't come out on the House floor yet.
we have Jim Moeller from this area. Where does he lie in this bill?
Jim Moeller lies on this bill he's against the bill because he feels it's a step back for the employee.
Has he related why?
He feels like the employee will be coerced into signing off on this.
Okay.
And I don't agree. If you look at the law you look at the bill, there's nothing. In fact, the bill says everything except that. It says that he will be under it's completely optional. He can stay into the program if he wants. But think of yourself as an employee, a good employee that gets hurt on the job. And you've been sitting at home If you're like me, if I sat at home for 6 weeks, what are you going to want to do, David?
Well, myself, I like to go to work.
Me too.
It drives me nuts to sit around.
But under the current program, you can't go to work until the doctor releases you, until you 100% can go back to work. Under this program, all it says is, you know what? I want to go back to work. And maybe it's under the limited access. Maybe I can only do so much. And I'm willing to sign off that, yeah, I'm going to go back to work, but I can only do so much. The doctor will sign off. You'll sign off. Your attorney can sign off. And then you can go back to work under a limited access type of work. And you'll be limited. You'll be compensated partially from your employer and now partially from your benefit.
And this is not something new. This is something that's been in play the normal way things have worked in 40 some other states for some time now.
This is pretty simple.
No brainer.
No brainer.
Well, I'm glad you're there, Paul. You bring sense, common sense to what sounds like some insanity up there.
At times, you wonder, don't you?
I wonder.
I wonder. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you. Has this been fun?
It's been fun.
Is there any other issue you want to talk about? Okay, you want to talk?
Let's talk about CRC and the transparency and accountability and that kind of thing. So I could just ask you some questions on that, and just
in what respect? I got to think.
Well, I'm thinking first of all, the governor wants this project to happen. And it's been my experience that I've been trying to get records.
Okay, well let's just start. We'll chat. If I have a gaffe, we'll gaff it. I'll live with what I'm going to do.
Okay. This is Paul Harris. He's our state representative for the 17th District, and we're going to talk about the CRC. The Columbia River Crossing Project.
Funnest, biggest project in the state, probably, or at least in our area, Dave. Or the most controversial, for sure.
Well,
David.
it is certainly the major project for our area. In fact, my own terminology, the Columbia River Crossing Project is a little too broad. I call it the Light Rail Crossing Project. That's more of an honest, forthright answer of what's really happening here.
Probably true, yeah.
It's because if this is really about a bridge, the bridge is going to cost $300 and some million.
Yep.
We could build the bridge.
And
the proponents of this project are saying, build that bridge, but they're really not talking about a $300 and some million bridge. They're talking about a major project where most of the work is in Washington on the north side of the river, where the traffic problems are on the south side of the river. And when they're saying it's going to cost about $3.6 billion. And when you add financing to that, according to the Courtright report, $8.7 billion project for a $300 and some million bridge. So Paul, is it fair to say build that bridge? Is this really a traffic highway problem?
What's interesting about the bridge is you're right. The bridge is just a small segment of a vast corridor where they're just doing a ton of other work. And so you're right. The bridge in and of itself is a pretty cheap, in the big scheme of things, is pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, it's a little sliver of the pie.
It is. And it's all the other add-ons, like government, it's all the falderall going on around the bridge that's really costing us the big dough. All the interchanges, and we got a flight pattern we're dealing with, and of course we have the choo-choo train that they're going to put on that high-speed rail that's just going to bullet us down into downtown Portland.
Which
is at $1 billion.
I look at this project, and I think it's really not, the problem is not with the project. The problem, it appears to me, is with the process. Now, you know that anytime you take a major project and you want to be able to get buy-in from the community, the first thing you want to be able to do is communicate with people and make sure you get buy-in. And there has been a lot of meetings and a lot of money spent on this. But we really can't say we have community buy-in. In fact, we can't really tell if we do have community buy-in because, first of all, why can't we vote on this thing? This is the biggest project that ever had anything to do with our area. Why can't we vote on this? Why can't we say, do you support or oppose this Columbia River Crossing, this light rail crossing project? How come we can't do that?
Well, apparently we're not smart enough to vote, David. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, they mustn't think that we're intelligent enough to vote. Or to not, it's kind of like we were talking about some other issues. At times I wonder if people don't think that the electorate are really smart enough. Because the only reason I can think of is they wouldn't allow us to vote is because they're afraid of the vote.